Today is August the 5th. What was the church's response to persecution? Let's find out together as we read Acts chapter 12. In Acts chapter 12, we start out that chapter. About that time, King Herod Agrippa began to persecute some believers in the church. He had the apostle James, John's brother, killed with the sword. When Herod saw how much this pleased the Jewish people, he also arrested Peter. Now, his intent was to kill Peter as well. He would hold a mock trial, and in that trial he'd find some charge to lay against Peter. And the following day, he would kill Peter. So in verse 5, while Peter was in prison, the church prayed very earnestly for him. As you read through this chapter, you saw how an angel came and opened a door for Peter. Peter left the prison. He found himself in the street. At first, he thought it was a vision. Then he looked around and realized, no, this is really the street outside the prison. And he was free. Peter went to the upper room, the place where the church was meeting, praying for him. Probably the same place that the Last Supper was held, in that large upper room. Peter knocked on the door. A servant girl came to the door, saw that it was Peter, was so excited she ran upstairs to tell everybody that Peter was here. They said, "You're silly. You're hallucinating. You're seeing a ghost. Peter's in jail." And they went back praying for Peter's release. I love that image. Eventually, Peter convinced the servant girl. She let him in. Peter came in, talked to the rest of the crowd. Look at what Peter says. In verse 17, he motioned for them to quiet down. He told them how the Lord had let him out of prison. Tell James and the other believers what happened. And then he went to another place. How did the early church handle persecution? They were not stupid. Peter was imprisoned. He was to be executed the next day. When he was released from prison, he saw this as an opportunity. He left. He fled Jerusalem. Now, according to what Paul says later on, and what even the book of Acts says happens next in the history of the church, Peter left and he began ministering in the Jewish churches scattered throughout the Roman world. He went to the places at synagogues where the Gentiles had not yet been reached. Paul went to the churches that were reaching out to the Gentiles as well. Later on, Paul says Peter is the apostle to the Jewish believers. I'm the apostle to the Gentile believers. How did the early church respond to persecution? In a very natural way. In appropriate places, they fled. But the one thing that they never did, they never recanted. They never denied that they were following Christ. Some paid with their lives. Some paid with becoming homeless. All saw God's blessing as a result of their obedience. Like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Enjoy this Sunday in a church of your choice.